Hello and welcome everyone. We're working with Thesis 2.0, and in this video we're going to add a background image to our Thesis 2.0 header. The header by default is this area here with the title of your site and also the tagline down here. As with anything in Thesis 2.0, accomplishing a goal like this is not limited to a single technique. However, to keep this bite-sized, we're going to do one simple action. We're going to add a background image to the header div. A div is essentially a spatial component, a rectangle, and it looks about like this. What we're going to do is take this rectangle, and at present does not have a background image associated with it, and we're going to add an image to it. As a bonus, we're also going to look at some of the other areas in the Thesis interface, and we'll also discuss additional options related to the default site name and then also the tagline. And since it's easier to show than tell, let's dive right in. I'm going to close this tab, and we're over here on the WordPress admin side in the Thesis section. We're going to click on View Site, which we were just doing with the site, but we're going to do it again now. And as you see there up at the top, this tab loads, and here's our site. What we've got here is a basic Thesis 2.0 build. It's running the classic skin, and a modification's been made here and there, but for the most part, this should look like any Thesis 2.0 site running the classic theme out of the box. And as you can see here, we have our site title, and below that we have our tagline. And the text seen here is created and can be modified or changed if you like in the WordPress back end. These text inputs are under settings and then general. So you probably already have all that set up. And our goal here is to go from this blank area back behind to a background image. Images can contain various elements. For our demonstration purposes here, we're going with a design element that contains graphical text. So in the end, we're going to remove the site title and the tagline that you see here using the Thesis skin editor and leaving us only with an image in this area. But first, of course, we need our image. So the presumption is that you already have created the image you wish to use and that this image exists in a format, whether that's a JPEG or a PNG, for example, that's ready for the web. And then finally, we assume that you know where this image is. It could be on your local desktop, for example. The mechanics of performing this task really simple. Again, we're logged into the website as WordPress admin, and second, we're on our website's homepage. And remembering that we're going to be dealing with the header div, now we're going to enter the Thesis skin editor by selecting down here the click to edit. And if you notice the tabs along the top of the browser, again, we've got two right now, Thesis admin and our site. A third's going to appear, a third tab, when we click to edit, and that third tab will be the Thesis skin editor. So here we go with that, watching along the top. We've got the skin editor that came up over here. We're on our site still, but let's flip over to the skin editor. So again, this particular Thesis 2.0 site's been modified a little bit, but no matter what the skin or customization's in place, the header's really usually near the top of the action. That's why it's the header. So here it's inside the header area, and you can see it here as the header. As we hover over the header area, you can notice the arrow here. With Thesis 2.0, you can expand and contract things like that quite easily. This arrow, were it to be closed, would indicate that there's more inside if we want to see it, and we do, so we'll click this arrow. And there's no surprises here. There's the site title and the site tagline. Those are the two pieces of text in the header right now, which we already looked at, these two guys right here. So we're going to leave these alone for the moment. And for now, we're going to leave that as it is, but we're going to come back to this. Now notice that we're in the HTML tab of the Thesis skin editor, and now we're going to switch over to the CSS side. To do that, we just click the CSS tab, and there we are. And don't let your eyes glaze over all the things going on here. There is a lot going on, but once you're familiar with how it all works, you're going to realize this is as simple as Visual CSS has ever been before. And on our left here, we've got these active packages of CSS, and these are what format and arrange the HTML that we looked at in the prior tab. They're what adjusts this, which becomes your site. On the right over here, we have the ability to do three things. Primarily these three things. First one, we could create a new package, and we're not going to do that, but we could. It's very powerful and very cool, but we won't need this to change our header image. So we're going to ignore that for now. And in the central area on the right over here, all those little things that pop up and hover over. These are the existing packages. As you can see, header's in here, right there. And it's a single element style. If we click on this, we'd be editing that style. We'll be back in a moment to that, but to conclude this little quick tour of the CSS tab here, down in the lower right, we've got our CSS variables. Okay, and this is seriously powerful stuff. And while like creating new packages, we don't need CSS variables to add a header image. These variables are really useful for other tasks, particularly repetitive ones, things you're going to use again and again, colors and borders, margins, things of that nature. So we're back into the middle here, and we've got this pre-existing header package right here. Clicking it will bring up the single element style, and that's currently assigned to the CSS package. With these predefined packages, the name, the reference, and the CSS selector, they can be left exactly as they are. You can change them. Not really recommended with that for the moment. And if you go over here to this middle tab, Options, this is where the magic begins to happen, especially in the context of this tutorial. As before, we're going to come right back to it. For the touring purposes, the final tab here is Additional CSS, and this area is currently devoid of content. There's nothing there. You can add properties and values here if you like, and we will be adding one before we're done with our goal here. So we'll come back to that as well. The additional CSS section here is best. It's really only used when the interface doesn't have an available option to use. The example we'll return to later is a height definition for our header background image. So when you can keep it interface easy, do so. And with that, we're going to return to the middle tab here, Options, and that's where everything can just be done with pointing and clicking and entering, looking at color wheels and things like that. So here in Options, we've got these arrows again. They let us know that there's more to see if we're interested in that portion of the styles area. We're not going to be adjusting, for example, font settings to establish an image. But if you click an arrow like that, you can see what we could change our site title and tagline. You could change here, the font families, the font size, the color, bold, whether it's italic, line height, and the list goes on from there. I'm going to close this arrow for a moment because we're going to get back to what we came here for, the background. Now, clicking this arrow expands this down, and we've already collapsed the fonts back up. So we're just working with the background section here now. And if you notice, right here is the background image field. Now, it's pretty much everything we've been looking for, except, of course, there's just one thing, which is, where's our image? So it's probably sitting on our desktop, right? Now, in previous times, we've spent a bunch of time here talking about FTP or control panels or the WordPress media library, and that's not the way it works in Thesis 2.0. We're going to cancel this action for the moment, upload our image, and then we're going to come right back to this exact same section. We're going to be armed with the info at that point that we need to add a specific background image to our live site. Before we cancel, we're going to click on this handy little plus symbol, and these areas in general in Thesis 2.0 are informative reference, and in this case the plus tells us that we want to come back and include the folder images in our text field here. That makes it a relative link. In short, if we can remember our image name, that's all we need to remember once we return to this area. Okay, so we're going to cancel this, and we've already looked at the HTML tab. We are on the CSS tab currently. We're going to return to it in a moment. And now we're going to round out this little tour here by visiting the Images tab. Okay, so here we are on the Images tab, and when you first get rolling with Thesis 2.0, only a few files are going to show up here. The items you do see are either in use, or at least they have the potential to be used by Thesis 2.0, so it's probably best to leave them alone, not to start deleting those just for the fun of it. Deleting defaults usually not a great idea. However, any images that you upload, like this one here, they're fair game, and the image we're going to use has already been uploaded and added here. In your case, if you don't already have an uploaded image, which you probably won't, you'd click up here on Browse. You'd locate the image file that you've created. Again, it may be on your desktop, for example. You'd click Open in the little pop-up that comes up, and then you would come down here and click Add Image. And that's how this one was created and added here. So at that point, you'd see your image just like this one shown here. And if you remember the CSS tab over here and the header package that we looked at, our background image will be referenced as images/file name. So just like this. In Thesis 2.0, if you click here on the file name of your image in the CSS reference column here, it's really easy to copy, and I'm going to do that with a copy right here. You can use Control-C and on Mac and so forth. There's various keyboard shortcuts for that. And we've got this now on our clipboard. And before we hop off this screen, note that in addition to the visual preview of the image over here, in addition to the path, you've also got the pixel width, 918 pixels, and then our height, which is 150 pixels here. Okay. Now these things can become important if you get something that's 4,000 pixels wide or what have you. You're probably doing something with an unoptimized image that would be best set to, if possible, exactly what you want to use it for in terms of width and height as well. So if you notice, we're sitting here with an image that looks about right, and in fact for this image and this site it is, and a height of 150 pixels. Okay, so now we're moving. We've got our image here, we've got it uploaded, and we're going to return to the CSS tab. We're going to return right back to that header package, the one that we've already looked at. We're going to click on that, and we're going to come back to our Options tab, and this should all be looking pretty familiar at this point. We're going to expand the background like we did before, and again, this is where we can either, if we copied the image URL over in the images side while we were uploading it or after that, we can paste that here. You can type it in, what have you. If you do paste it, recall that we only want images / the file name, again, as per this. So this is what we have here now, and we're doing pretty well. So really, that's about as hard as it gets, and that's the beautiful thing about 2.0. So you can either type this in, you can paste it in, clean it up, make sure that it's in the right format, and we're done for the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to save this now. We're going to click on either view our side, or we can just go see it because it's in real time, and we can see our progress to date. And you can see clearly now that we've got our image here in the header div. So that rectangle that was blank before is now populated with an image. But we do have a couple of issues. First, our original site name and tagline are still visible. And depending on the kind of image that you choose, that might be the desired look, and if so, you can ignore the removal of these text elements. We're going to discuss that in a moment, but it is optional. And that's really about it, except for the other issue, which is our image is running a bit out of room. This particular image is 150 pixels in height, and we're not quite sure, it may or may not be tall enough, it being this rectangle behind it. That's where we're going to make sure that we add some CSS, and it gives us a little bit more to do so that this tutorial is a little bit more than 3 steps and you're done. So let's get the height adjusted, and what we're going to do is come back to the skin editor here, go into CSS, which we're in, open up header, and over here in additional CSS we could add whatever we would need to get that 150 pixel value of height. So this is all pretty simple, straightforward CSS. Your selector in this case is the identified header. The div is an ID, so it's a hash or a pound sign, which is right there. If it were a class, it'd be a period or a dot. And we're going to remember that we want our height to be 150 pixels, and it looks like this. Obviously, we don't want to delete, we want to save, and we'll do that right now. So that should take care of any height issues that we would have had over here. And there's not a huge difference on this one right at the moment. If I'd gone with a 300 pixel image, for example, you would have seen that we would have found that action to be quite necessary in terms of the additional CSS required for the height. You may run across that, may not. If you do see it, now you know how to fix it. So, we've looked at the site, everything's looking pretty good. Now, on our final step, again with this being optional, if you have a very soft or faded background image or an image that lends itself to this visible text that we've got over here, then leave it alone if you wish. Keep it. There's no requirements. You don't need to remove the site title or the tagline, But to explore the HTML portion of the skin editor a little bit, we're going to zap this in our example for purposes here, okay? So we're going to return over here to our skin editor, and we're going to go back, we looked at this in the very beginning, to our HTML tab. And we're going to find our header, and then this is where we use, it's described over here in detail if you need to reference that later on. We're going to use the shift, so I'm holding in the shift key. Now I click with the left mouse, what have you, and I'm going to drag it here to get it off the page, okay? Same thing with the site tagline, shift, drag, and it's gone. And it's as simple as that. And a lot of things in Thesis 2.0 are either to add or to subtract from a given area, or as simple as that. So that's it. We're going to save this template. And if you notice, this is refreshing in real time. That text is now gone. So there you have it. I mean, beauty, it's done. Now, as you probably noticed, this walkthrough was kind of a leisurely one. The steps to create a background image, not just for the header, for almost anything, is very simple. Some users can, skip the image tab and uploading because even an absolute URL could be used. So if you're comfortable using FTP or your control panel to upload images, there's really only one step to it. You just find the package. If you recall the packages in the CSS tab, find the package that you want to deal with, and you could go here right from the beginning, or here to the background, and if you wanted to, you could use a non-relative or an absolute URL there. So good to know, but for the most part, this was kind of the simple keep it easy edition. And as in all tools and professions, it's good to know your way around, and learning the overall system of Thesis 2.0 helps everything make good sense. So knowing about the HTML tab, the CSS tab, the images tab, all of that is useful towards other things that you're going to be doing in the future. So, adding a background image to the header div it's a 1-minute deal. But the secondary purpose of this was to identify and discuss the areas that you're going to revisit for other edits and additions that you make on your own Thesis 2.0 website. So thanks for following along on this glimpse into the power and simplicity of Thesis 2.0, and we will see you again very soon.